I believe 100,000 Kiwis with better financial literacy will create a better New Zealand, and the team at Generate KiwiSaver scheme are helping me reach this goal. Head to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change to find out more. Welcome back. You are listening to another episode of the Keep the Change podcast. We love having you listen around here. Anyway, you'll know by now it's not perfect, as Mikey laughs at me after he spilt water around this place only not long ago when he was in here. So please leave a 5-star review or subscribe, follow along, share your favorite lesson on social media so that you can help us get this content in front of even more people. Speaking of getting this content in front of even more people, Mikey, the good people at Generate are supporting my vision to improve financial literacy of 100,000 Kiwis by sponsoring Keep the Change now. So cheers to Generate. If you do need to have your KiwiSaver reviewed, head to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change. Now, one thing that needs to change in Mikey's eyes is that the government and the council's perception of taxes, or maybe even their idea to tax us even more, they should be careful about this.
Yeah, man. I call it the state and the baby state.
Okay.
Yeah, the council's the baby state.
I see.
Yeah.
Government's a state?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, man. And they are a state.
In a state? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I don't think it's news to anyone now. There's enough sort of hype and shit around that it's reached me. So I don't listen to the media. But just to confirm, I just typed in council rates in Google, and here are some of the headlines. Proposed 21.4% rates rise, hardest issue Gore Council. Central Otago 21, Tauranga faces 7. New Zealand homeowners facing mammoth rate increases, one council proposing 31.8%, near 20% rate rise on the cards for Upper Hutt, and this list just goes on and on and on. Now, this is interesting, because we are meant to be decreasing inflation and not having the prices of things go up. This is scary.
It is. Yeah. I'm surprised that not more people don't correlate this to more inflation, because as well, we talked about rents going up once on a podcast, and then what rent flows into, the cost of everything.
Yeah.
Now rates are kind of similar because you can't escape them, whether you're a tenant, a homeowner, if you have an office.
That's your lease to the crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all going to get more expensive, and that gets passed on normally. And so to pass it on, then people will increase their prices. Whether that be
our rent.
Yeah. Well, people saying, I want to get paid more because our rates are going up, or hey, we're a landlord, we're going to increase the rent to help cover the rates, etc. Because people just want to maintain margins all the time. So yeah, and then eventually someone pays.
We've, compared to the rest of the world, got a good debt to GDP ratio, government, all that kind of stuff. Councils don't. Councils are broke as fuck. Councils are a mess, man. And it's really interesting that we've talked about this before. Like, they go and borrow money because they collect this much money. Call it, let's say Auckland gets about, I think it's around 5 billion in rates or something like that. And then they need to spend more than 5 billion, so they go and borrow it, right? Because they've got a project that costs 10 billion and they have to start it. Then this is a cycle that starts 30 years ago or whatever. Then they're just becoming a servicing machine because they've got all this debt that's just piled up slowly for all the projects that they're doing and mismanaging and spending it terribly, and mean speed bumps though.
Your favourite.
Yeah. And then they just become a servicing machine like we are with our mortgages. So we just become good at making sure the repayment's made. Then just like us in our personal scenario, interest rates went up. So the cost of their debt gets more expensive too. What do? They're like, oh shit, I need to go and earn more income, just like we do. They can't throw the toys out of the cot and sell their house. They are the council. They're what I call state or forever institution. They cannot die. They could, but it would be very difficult to. So there's a couple of things that they can do. The only thing they can really do to service the debt that's getting more expensive is to charge you more, which is like anti-inflation, right? Like that is non-tradable inflation effectively that's coming to an invoice near you, and you have to pay it so they can pay their debt. And the only other solution, which is where I think this goes because they have to be careful, is interest rates need to come down.
I thought you were going to say print more money.
Yeah, effectively, yeah. So I think that's probably what will happen. It's not yet, but it's coming. And it's getting to the point now, I think, where the state and the baby state, it's the government and the councils, are going to have to be careful about their taxing, because it is everywhere. Like, I talk to a lot of people don't care, right? Like, there's plenty of people that are just starting out their journey and they don't really understand any of this, and they're earning 70 grand a year and they see like 15 or 20 grand get taken out and it's kind of fair or whatever. When you get into something and been in it for a while and you're almost having half taken, and then you start thinking like, fuck, Mikey, I might get the missus a full drive because the roads are fucked. Say to the missus, better make sure we've got private healthcare in our insurance because the public system's a bit cooked. And then your business partner takes 39%, which isn't a business partner because they're not doing anything productive to help you. Then your rates come up and you're like, how come my Auckland rates are 4.5 grand and they were 3 grand like 2 years ago?
Oh, it's just inflation. Don't worry about it.
And then insurance happens and they say, oh, because of the weather events that happened in Napier and the Auckland floods, your house in Gore, the insurance has got to go up. And all of a sudden insurance is 2 grand, not $1,000. And all of these things are piling on. And I think, the state and the baby state have to be careful, man, because you're going to push people. We were talking about it just at lunch about like, we probably are like good income earners and it's still tough because it's like, you have to give half away. Very hard when someone's taking half off the top. Like, in terms of, it's wild that you give away that much. And it makes it very hard for you to do things. And you have to have a long-term view and all of that. I think people don't understand that it's these things that are making it hard, but it's definitely a big part of it, man.
Yeah.
And that's how you push people to the edge, and they either end up, we've seen it. We saw it during COVID. It's hard for people to correlate, but we had lockdowns and stuff, which there was groups of people that didn't like that, and it was heavy-handed and things like that, shutting down businesses, all of this stuff. People will rise up and they make noise, and it's civil unrest effectively, right? Like in the States, they had proper ones with like guns, and well, they got guns so they can. We were driving tractors around, but yeah. But like a lot of this stuff correlates back to, hang on, we give you a lot, and then you tell us what to do. And I reckon they do have to be careful. I think it's very important that, or over time, we're going to see a swing where someone will get into power and leave us alone, or they'll just be like, we want you to do you. We're going to go fix the roads, pay the nurses because they're mean, pay the doctors, they're good, we want them.
Yeah.
And just stop fucking around in your lives. Or they're going to have to, because there's too much noise about it, man. And some people don't realize yet that it's all just you getting taxed to fuck. Like, how are you meant to have a house if in 15 years if the rates are 25 grand?
Yeah.
Because on the projection that it's going now with what they're talking about, if you extrapolate it out, it's $500 a week, man.
That's same as tax on a $100,000 income on the current tax rates, which will change in July allegedly. So
to fuck all though.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking like? They're saying like, oh, we're getting back in and indexing tax rates. Thanks for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I've got here. It's not indexing them, which is the ultimate issue. Yeah. Oh, mate, I think all of this just leads to a wealth tax. And I know you won't like that, but I just think that
this is the opposite of what the solution is.
But I don't think people think like you. So I think
that's probably a good thing too.
No, but I think where your brain goes to is a very different place to what?
Wealth, freedom, and personal responsibility.
So I think what happens is more hurt, more taxes, more rates. Narrative is, well, inflation.
Yeah, we will save you.
Lack of infrastructure, these things. And we go like, oh yeah, shit, these are problems. So I look at it and go, okay, and I know people won't like this, but I go, well, if we get to a point where everyone agrees that, or enough people agree that we should have had a capital gains tax or a wealth tax, well, then why not retrospectively go back to the period where we should have had it and say, well, who's got the wealth? You guys. Hand it back over and we'll build all this shit and we'll fix it. And then we can go into your beautiful world that you think can exist, where we'll just leave you alone. The doctors get paid well. The nurses get paid well. We got rid of the speed bumps. The roads are all fucking perfect. Throw your bloody Lambo four-wheel drive out the gate. You don't need that anymore because we fixed everything, Mikey. You could probably take your e-cycle to work and get there faster. One of my goals is to help 100,000 Kiwis improve their financial literacy and in turn help create a better New Zealand. Generate has a very similar goal to educate and empower Kiwis to make smart KiwiSaver decisions so more of us can be better off at retirement. That's why I'm stoked to have them on board as sponsors. Together, we can reach more people and make this goal a reality. If you've never got KiwiSaver advice before, book a no-obligation chat with a Generate advisor at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change. They'll even put you in the draw to win 5K worth of vouchers just for having a chat, whether or not you decide to sign up. T's and C's on that webpage. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns. Like, because when you live in a country where you are constantly told that the rich don't pay enough tax, and then you are told these things are all fucked, what is your solution that you're going to think is the solution? That's going to be, well, we just need to get money from the people that have got it. So that's what will happen. Like, that's what I think. I'm not saying I want to be right or that is the answer. I'm at the point where I don't even know anymore. But I just think we're being pushed into this this place where
100% tax ratio.
Yeah, well, eventually people will just go like, oh, well, no, yeah, I reckon we do. Like, there'll be enough people that are like, just get on with it, have it, etc. The problem's going to be, can they actually deliver what we expect them to deliver with that money? Because,
can I jump in here?
Yeah.
So the problem with that is there is no evidence that they can.
Yeah. Well, look at the last. Look where we are.
Yeah. So even zooming out, it doesn't matter which government over the last 30, 40 years, all we've done is increase taxes. So what we've done is lower interest rates, putting more money into the system, and then the government comes in creating inflation. So doesn't have to be CPI. I know you can go look at a CPI calculator and it averages 2 or whatever. I'm talking about house price inflation, things that you actually have to spend money on. House price inflation, the cost of food, all of this stuff that continues to rise. And then the government continues to step in and bring in new tax brackets to tax away the inflation continuously for 40 years. And then if they didn't put new brackets in, they just left them where they were while we inflated it away. Everyone was moving up tax brackets and didn't index it. So that effectively is taking more. That is the evidence. And right now, everyone is like, this is the worst it's ever been.
Yeah.
So why do you think doing more of it is the right thing to do?
Because then people get told, well, Mikey, of course they take more. It's because of inflation, and now the stadium will cost more. Now the roads will cost more. So it's too simple.
They will now because they didn't get managed properly.
So I think
but you can't tax the rich to do it. Taxing you can't make someone poorer and then make the place better.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that people think that that's what you can do. And
I know,
so then
I'm
that's
here to
what
help
will happen.
teach everyone that is not the case.
Okay, so what happens if you do that to people too much?
Bye-bye. Yeah, if you push two things, right? So inflation is a ruthless thing because it actually affects the lower class and middle class the most. Increasing interest rates after trying to fight inflation is what it hurts the middle class. But prior to that, the lower income classes get hurt the most because they don't have lots of extra income to cover the new prices. So two things, this process over time will not stop. You can tax more, but it's not going to stop the inflation, because they'll just, when we have a hard time, they'll just turn the printer on again, right? And it'll start the same cycle. Tax rates can be 60%, and it's not going to make the poor wealthier. We've seen it. I've just given you like 40 years of evidence. But these lower class people eventually, and the middle class who become lower class, eventually end up in civil unrest. The wealthy, I can afford a plane ticket. I'll go somewhere where I get treated better. And there's a funny like saying for the investing world, which is money will fly to where it gets treated best.
I just wrote that down. Are you looking at my notes? Yeah,
Nah.
Literally in the green here. Money goes where it's treated best.
Yeah, and people do too, you know.
Yeah. Well, like, I think what happens when we talk about this in terms of, okay, wealthy people are going to leave because they're getting taxed too much. Strip the wealthy and they'll fuck off out of here and just go look at what's actually happening. Ordinary Kiwis are going, I've had enough here, I'm leaving. It's happening no matter what level of income.
You're right. It actually is already happening.
Yeah, and I
it's
think
just masked by the fact that there's a whole lot of people coming on.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way for you, like an everyday Kiwi, because it's, I think when we're not that profile, we kind of go, well, fuck them, who cares? Do we really care if Michael Hill bounces out in New Zealand? Have you seen this shitty yacht anyway? It's got paint stripes missing on it or whatever. You know, it looks like he's ready to attack New Zealand in that thing. Shout out to Sir Michael Hill. I'm not having a go at you. But we're actually already seeing people go like, oh, I'm going to go, because they're getting taxed by rates, by interest rates, by inflation, by not being able to have the life that they want. So they're going, well, I'm going to go to where I'm treated better. So to have this concept that rich people may leave isn't actually that weird of a concept, because it's already happening with everyday people.
Yeah, rich people are smart enough to understand their hurdle rate, right? So like they know that if it gets this hard to make this much, like all humans can take some punishment, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just starting a business, how like kind of ruthless you have to be on yourself. And humans can take that, and we can take it for a certain period of time. But eventually you're like, you get to a certain age and you start fucking looking around and you're like, is it worth it? And you take a look at everything and you feel the trend of the way that it's going, the constant barrage from the state and the baby state about with expenses that you're not getting anything for. And you're like, I need to go somewhere where this is handled better.
Yeah.
Because my quality of life is getting dog shit and I'm working too hard for it. Seriously, it sounds like a jokey thing to say. No, but you will push people too far, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone down this path so many times in my head, and I think what the answer is, you need to find something that you like doing so that it numbs the pain a little bit, of what's happening to you from all this other stuff, i.e. rates. Yeah, well, that's probably what most of us do, right? Just turn to the bottle, turn to the weekend, we get 2 days to party it up and have a good time, and then get back to it on the Monday. But it's gonna be like, I don't know, maybe we're just in a wave and it just feels like this at the moment, but it doesn't look like it based on what's coming. And I guess that's what you're forewarning. You're saying, hey guys,
no, this is actually,
and we're going to have a wealth tax. We're going to have rates going up, which is effectively another form of tax, inflation.
I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying this, but this is actually what I personally think, and it's a drawn out process. It doesn't happen straight away. This is kind of the early stages of a failing currency. Like, we're just chasing non-stop to try and get hold of everything, and house prices have come down, but they're not really back to like what people call affordable. There's still a lot of people complaining about them. There's some data out there that said first home buyers that thing you shared from CoreLogic was pretty cool. Yeah. First home buyers have become the biggest share of new buyers in the market over the last year or so, which is good, I guess.
If that's what you want.
If that's what you want, yeah. But really, like, you're just on a hiding to nothing with like taxes. Like, new government comes in, campaign promise about lowering tax rates, get there, nah, we're going to leave that. Hang on, we've got an exemption coming out for trust. Oh, nah, not really. So that's not changing, you know. Road user charges on electric cars, yep.
Beautiful, just pay mine, mate.
Yeah.
Cheap.
Yeah, and then like oh, hang on, we're going to raise interest rates on your mortgage because we've got to fix inflation, okay? the Kiwis don't understand that in the background, the cost of the debt's gone up for the council. Boom. Now you've got a 30% increase on your rates coming. And this is just like year after year after year after year. And then if you fast forward to think what's going to happen is they're probably not going to get inflation completely under control. We've talked about this multiple podcasts about having a lost decade and things like that. But like, if you do that and then tax everyone to oblivion without people feeling like they're getting a return on their money, man, I don't blame people if they want to go. I don't. I sit in that camp. I feel like that's kind of teaching the state and the baby state a lesson. And then I'll get comments on this being like, fuck him, why don't you tell your story walking? And I've had it all before. But I just think they need to be careful. Honestly, overall, the overall picture is like, I know some good people that have left recently, and we should not let those people go away.
We were just having a quick bite in between these pods, and at Next Advisor, just be careful how much detail I go into here. We've basically got someone who would like us to help them do a piece of work for them so that they can exit everything in New Zealand and leave. Like they're paying us to do that piece of work. Yeah. And they're like, and their rationale is, we're going to go, have a crack at the bigger money in a different lifestyle. Yeah. So that's a business that's now gone. Well, will be. Yeah. I mean, someone will buy that hopefully, but they'll have to be able to run it like they do. But yeah,
it's sad, man, because it's like this. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say we shouldn't want people to be leaving. You know, if I were, like I run a number of things. So even like I want more people to listen to the podcast. I'm not like, fuck, what could I do to push these listeners away? Yeah. I wonder how we. Some of them have left, but that's okay. I'm like, okay, how do we get? So normally we're trying to bring people towards us and create that magnetism with the things that we're doing, more customers and things, and more people into our clubs, into our judo clubs and stuff, but. At the moment, we're like, we've always been a country where people have left. We shouldn't be fucking proud of that. We should be like, it's great that people want to come here as well. But, a little bit of that is actually not us. It's the natural beauty of New Zealand and the amazing scenery. We can't claim to be like, hey, we fucking built Queenstown. We put it all together exactly like that. Yeah. We were given that.
Even the Auckland waterfront was wild. Yeah. Like driving around Takapuna, you like look out to that view and you're like,
holy.
The natural stunningness of this place is out the fucking gate.
Yeah. And so we do have people wanting to come here, and I think that's how we then accept that Kiwis are leaving and we go, but this is still a great place to live and people want to come here, which is true, but I think sometimes we forget that, but we individually didn't put the remarkables together that people want to come and fucking get a photo on. Yeah. We didn't make that lake. I'm sure we built the things that are around it.
And there are other places in the world that have beautiful scenery.
That people want to go to as well.
I just think this multi-decade-long process of more credit units, dollars into the system, as in via the housing market really, but basically money into the system, lowering interest rates, accessing more dollars, creating inflation. Like I said, not CPI, but you can see it through house prices. There's a big graph about we talked about how they double every 10 years. Yeah. And then just taxing away the inflation constantly. Like if that's been running for the last 30 years, where do you think it's going for the next 30? Unless something changes. Yeah. Because then if you go look at that, like your 39% is 80%. And that's like, what the fuck's the point in working? Seriously, though. But then that's like a force of socialism, because then it actually is better to just rely on the state and vote for the one that hands out the most.
Yes.
We already have I think New Zealand is already a socialist country, personally, which is a pretty grunty view, and people don't like me saying that. But to say that, you have to understand what actual pure free market capitalism is. And I think that you're on a hiding to nothing. There is many times in history that governments and countries have gone down the road of socialism and it fails. And unfortunately, this one is linked to fiat money. And this is how the process works. And a part of me is like, if you get the right person in government, all they're doing is delaying it and creating more breathing room for us to organize our shit before we have to make calls anyway. Yeah. And bad governments speed it up, and that's kind of where I sit. But the bad government, or any government that doesn't recognise this long term, because there are people thinking about long term, because we've talked about them leaving, they will leave. Like, eventually your $1.5 million house going to $2 million, but looking outside and there's crime everywhere because it's a failed state and you can't drive to work or whatever because your car will get damaged and you have to use the public transport. It's a fucking mess. Eventually that gain on your house is not worth anything. And you do go, maybe it's not worth having an asset go to the fucking moon if I can't live in a nice place. And it's a breakdown of society.
This is the most passionate we've seen, Mikey, ladies and gentlemen.
I told you I had a clear head while I was overseas, and I started thinking pretty deeply about some shit.
Yeah. These topics are hard because
it's weird thinking.
Well, yeah, it's not like I'm like, okay, so what are the solutions we get here? And it's almost like we're all on a treadmill, right? And then, but we don't control the speed. And every now and then when you're running on a treadmill, you do just want to chuck your legs on the side and stand there for a bit and go, I'll get back in. But if you do that in life in New Zealand at the moment, and the treadmill is just the print of cash and how, quickly it's going past you. If you stop, you're sort of like, oh shit, now I missed getting onto the property ladder, or now I went interest only for a bit and stood on the side. Now my loan's going to take even longer to pay off, and so you're constantly, now our rates have gone up. We can't have a second child because we can't afford to.
That stuff's fucked.
Yeah, which is sad. I just think what we think New Zealand used to be is just not it anymore, and it's not what it's going to be like. And I think we probably have a bit of that recency bias because we sit in that 30s category where we've seen it and gone like, you used to be able to do that. Why can't you anymore?
Yeah, I grew up without a phone.
Yeah.
Most people can't say that anymore.
But, it would have been normal to have 2 or 3 kids and stuff, and then it's just like slowly going. And then people are having kids later. Yeah. But it's... Yeah. But we're told, it's because you've got options and you're going on OEs and stuff first. And you're like, we're the selfish ones. And then you realise, you start getting into it and you're like, okay, I'm going to have a kid. Then you're like, fucking sorry, how much is daycare?
Yeah, yeah.
Then, gee, okay. So we could go down to one income. Where are we going to live? So I just think, often we don't tie it back to money. But going back to what you were saying before, 39% tax rate kicks in on 180 grand of income plus, right? So that's only 3% of people who earn over that. So then it's easy for 97% of people to be like, Mikey, it doesn't matter what you're saying. It's not like that because they don't live there.
Yeah, that's true. I also reckon there's new data coming out pretty soon that number's going to be way bigger.
Yeah.
I reckon
4 to 5.
Yeah, even more.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that have moved into that bracket over the last couple of years with the inflation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
Yeah. So, okay, let's say that before they introduced that, you were earning, let's say you were earning 300K. Now, you've then had a pay cut on your $120,000. So it is $6,000 plus another 6% of the 2, so $7,200 of extra tax. Now, someone who's making 50 grand a year, hearing that would be like, boo fucking who. But if you lose 7 grand of your income, the first thing you're going to do, and you like nothing changed, you're going to go to your employer and go, hey, I want to be paid X, Y, Z. And so you're going to ask for more. And so I can see why you're saying that rate is going to increase. I mean, when they first did those calculations, they thought 2%, it's now 3%. It'll keep going up because naturally people will want more. And then we get into look what these CEOs get paid. Now let's just think about $1 million, for instance, as well. So someone's getting paid $1 million. There was a list of what the CEOs make the other day. Let's just keep it simple and say it kicks in at 200,000. So you got $800,000 of your salary all of a sudden just got taxed at 6%. Well, there's $48,000 gone per year. Oh, boo-hoo, you're making $1 million. Yeah, but don't forget you're already losing a third of that anyway, above $70,000. So, then those same people are facing inflation and interest rates and things. But the piece as well that I think you forget, mate, because you don't live there, is that 1 in 2 households don't contribute to the tax take. And I bring this up all the time, and there was a recent article, because I started getting to the point where I'm like, fuck, I think maybe I'm making this up. But no, Recently there was more, someone wrote another story based off of that data.
Probably a pod listener, man.
Yeah, and I don't think people like reading about that because they're like, oh, hang on, that's breaking my worldview. But basically, 1 in 2 households don't net contribute anything because they receive more than
I do know about this, and that's why I said earlier that New Zealand is a socialist country.
Bingo. So I don't think it's unfair for you to say that. But one half of New Zealand is helping the other half, which is either good or bad. Who knows? Like, we get to decide. But it's something like, I can't remember the percentage, but a large part of that 50% of tax that's paid too is done by an even smaller amount of people. So then I think it gets confronting for all of us because we kind of go, well, what do you mean I'm receiving stuff? And you don't understand that you're getting your roads, your healthcare and things like that. It's like, oh yeah, well, whoa. Like, oh yeah, okay. So now I can just ignore that because I haven't been to the hospital in a few years and whatnot. But basically that is the data that gets modeled. And I reckon it's wrong. I reckon it's probably 60-40. We've probably swung the other way because you can't just increase a tax rate and then not impact that too. So that data was 2019 before a 39% tax rate. So it will be different again. But
that, just like zooming right out, isn't that terrifying?
Of course.
That half our country requires like fiscal support. Isn't that a failed economy?
Well, in business, one thing that we teach people is let's analyze your revenue and let's look at where your revenue comes from. Now, anytime you get to a point where too much of your revenue is reliant on 1, 2, 3, 4 people or businesses, for instance, you go, we've got a big risk here. We need to de-risk this. So where it does become frightening is that if those CEOs, for instance, that were making $1 million or whatever, just go, you know what, I could go to Australia and get a role, or I could leave and go to Singapore or the UK or whatever, we swing the percentage because we lose someone that's helping a number of the households. So that's where, going back to what I was saying before, I think people will leave, but I think what will happen is that then everyday people will be convinced that, well, yeah, we just need to tax wealth, assets and things, and it's inevitable that we will see that because we'll lose tax money out, so we'll have to replace it. And the logical thing in most people's minds will be, okay, it is a capital gains tax, etc. Now that may be right. It could be the best thing that we ever do. Who knows?
I don't think it'll make even the slightest difference, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you just zoom out and think about the continuous pressure from tax, I mean tax capital gains, I don't give a fuck. But seriously, like if you do, but I doubt it's going to be the solution to your problems. Actually, I'd make a bet on it. I bet you if capital gains tax gets implemented, the government will be more in debt and the problems won't be solved in another 20 years.
Oh, right. Remind me of this in 20 years. Yeah. AI something.
Because they're not capable, because the system doesn't allow it. It's create money, tax away the inflation, person inside the walls of the country gets hurt more and everything gets harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to see it. Anyway, let's get into some stories.
Yeah.
So this is where I think it's not just, people will leave, people change their behaviour. Now,
this is so good. How much time do we have?
Yeah. Oh, we're only half an hour in.
We've got
Perfect,
another
mate.
half
We're here
hour.
for 2 hours. Now, I heard a story about a doctor, and the doctor basically does not need to work, but they do because they love it, and it's their thing that they do. And they said that their words, they're in the privileged position where they do not need to work. However, when they are short-staffed on the weekend and a phone call comes, could you come and help? They think, okay, well, I am a good law-abiding citizen and I'm a great person and I like to produce more than I consume, so they've got amazing values. They go, okay, I'll sacrifice the time for my family. I'm still going to make 67% on this overtime. Perfect. However, we introduced a 39% tax rate for that person. So they earn more than $180,000, or let's say they earn $180K as an example. They then asked on the Saturday, could you come in and do this? They say, yes, I will do it. And they're like, now I'm only getting 61%. All of a sudden, it's just a bit of a mind bend. Okay, I'm going from getting 2/3 to 61%.
This is a true story too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they cop a bit of shit at the hospital on the Saturday, and then they start weighing things up. And the argument for, well, at least I'm getting 2/3 of this becomes less relevant to them because they're frustrated by what they're facing in their work. So they say, you know what, maybe I'll prioritize the time at home with my family, because for 61% of it, it just doesn't feel worth it. So then the next time they get the phone call, could you do the Saturday? Could you do the Sunday? We need some extra support. And let's give it some context. They're working in the middle of the night. They're dealing with drunk people and stuff. They're just like, you know what? Fuck, it's not worth it. So that's one less person that's willing to provide their help and support.
Because their incentive has been removed.
Yes. Now, the argument to that, because I was told, oh, you're missing the point, damn it, I've just lost it. It's refreshed, is that, someone said to me, 6% doesn't make a difference at that rate. You don't get to say that if it's not you. This is someone's true story of decisions they have made. You can't then just go like, oh, fuck, what are you complaining about? It's only 6%. And then they started to tell me, no, it's actually due to the conditions in there and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit of both of them. However, it's not you. You do not get to decide why they're not doing that. And interestingly, I posted about it on LinkedIn and then I shared it on Instagram. I had a number of people in the healthcare sector that were like, yeah, man, this is a real thing. And also not just the top tax bracket. So someone said to me, I'm on about 150K. Now, when I get asked to do overtime on the weekends, after I'm burnt out from getting smashed during the week anyway in this tough environment, I now say no, because after I did it for a bit, I'm like, man, I'm losing 33% of it to tax, 12% of the gross amount to paying back my paying back my student loan. So they're like, oh, I would look at it and go, do I want to go to work and get paid for half of the day, because half of it's going to, in their eyes, tax. So they don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's where it's easy for us when we're not making that sort of money to think like it must all be easy and whatnot. You're not in their shoes. Similarly to people who make a lot of money, it's I think more people who make more money, I have more conversations with people who do well. They're like, fuck, I don't know how people are living on 60K. Like, how's that family getting by? What the hell's going on over there? And those people are concerned about them. Whereas I think when we're not making as much money, because I used to do the same thing. I think like, these rich people, fuck, who cares? And but
whereas
then
they're talking about you being like, shit, I hope they're all right.
Yeah. But then their behavior are the ones making more, are like, okay, I don't think this is worth it to me, because I think at the same time, you're like, okay, I'm going to pick this extra shift up. I'm going to get it done. I work for 8 hours. I effectively get paid net for 4. I then go and buy, I'm like, Sunday, I'm going to go out and treat myself. I'm going to get eggs Benedict. You know what? I will have a smoothie as well. And give me that triple soy mocha fucking latte. $63, thanks, pal. And $12 for your parking. Like, oh, there goes an hour of it. You know? So,
ruthless, man.
Yeah, that's a little bit exaggerated, having a bit of fun with that. But you can see where all of this pressure is then leading into people changing their habits. So I think even if we're not making a lot of money, it still impacts us, because you take your child to that A&E on the Saturday because they're coughing up blood and Dr. Susan
understaffed
is not there because she's like, no, sorry, I do care about you, but I want to prioritize
my family.
Yeah.
Because
for years I didn't have my Saturday nights at home, and then I did the night shift and I had to sleep most of my Sunday. And that's not worth it to me anymore. And you can't have a crack at a doctor, Dr. Sally or Susan, deciding to do that because that's their choice. And that is something that they're going to decide. But when we change the frameworks around us, we have to accept that behaviors will change, and that means people will leave. It means people that won't do the thing that they need to do. And it means that sometimes when we need these rich assholes that get paid way too much and they won't even matter, they're not there for us.
Nah, I know a couple of them now, and the funniest part about them is they pay insane levels of tax, and then they also self-tax.
Yeah.
They give away so much. Yeah. And then do you know what they also don't do? Use the public health system.
Yeah.
So they're not blocking it up. But eventually they get to a point, because generally if you do really well in life, you see this a lot in interviews and stuff with older guys that have done well. They end up loving their country because they're like, their mind space and headspace is, I got given the opportunity to do this and I couldn't have done it without being planted here at the time, because if I was somewhere else I wouldn't have known how to do it. And they all love giving back, which seems to be like a philanthropic wave of emotion that comes over wealthy people. The ones you hear about anyway.
They could have just taxed their rental properties.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, you know, and they go back and they say, I love my country, and then they end up giving and all of this kind of stuff. And like, it's strange to me how the narrative has been taken hold of that they're bad. Because really that's what like the narrative and the feeling is in society. Is
they
like,
don't need it anyway.
Yeah. How do you need that
They
much?
got it by standing on people.
Yeah, I mean, I really struggle with the idea of like, let's tax everything into the oblivion, because in my mind, I don't see any evidence of it working. And the last thing you should be doing is taxing the really wealthy ones, because the way that they became really wealthy is providing something of value to society that we all use and need, which is more valuable than the Prime Minister. Seriously. Like, the people that have done really good are like really good for a reason, because the market's told them they are.
Yeah.
You know, and also to do that, you can't do it without other people around you. You can't be like a single billionaire. You know, like there's not really any billionaires that did it from their office on their own. Like they have other people around them, so they're employers and helping people do better themselves, and you know, like,
bro, like this just always comes back to property. The only reason this exists is because we just encourage everyone to get a job and then go buy a house, and so we don't then have enough conversations around people doing well in business, for instance, and doing heaps of cool shit, and then going, yeah, that's why we don't tax that, because that's another avenue, and if they take that risk, we should not tax them at the end of it if they successfully exit, because that's their reward.
You're right, but that is not property's fault. That's the money's fault.
I think it's, well, the tax conditions around property too. It's like incentivized.
No, even if you have a capital gains tax that takes a piece off the top every time you sell it, people will still use it as a storehold of wealth because it's scarce and the money is unlimited.
Fair, yeah.
So you can tax it unless you ridiculously tax it like 100% or something. I don't know.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. But, you know, like, I don't know, what did they talk about last? To be fair, we've had a capital gains tax for like the last 8 years or something.
Bright line, yeah.
Well, however long, I think it was did John keep it in? Or, I don't even know who but it's like a long time. And all prices did was send up and to the right.
Yeah, it didn't fix
like 100% since it was implemented. So it doesn't fix anything. And guess what happened to your public services? They got worse.
Yeah.
So like there's actual stuff that you can look at to show that it doesn't work. And they took interest deductibility away. What got worse? Public services. What got more expensive? Your rates. Everything. So either the people in charge need to be careful, because people are waking up to this and good people are leaving, and some people aren't leaving, but like the doctor, they're not going to do that extra work, which they are capable of.
Yeah.
Which I would like to live in a world where that doctor there with lots of experience is there when I snap my leg or get poisoned or whatever. Like, I'd like him to be there. I'd rather not wait in the A&E room for 24 hours before I get looked at while my hips popped out.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be more in that world. And I think mathematically this thing looks like it's trending the wrong way, man. So to the government and the baby state, the councils, maybe like have a look in the mirror.
Hate.
Yeah.
Well, so, I don't like just getting real negative about solutions, so I'll come to that. But also, then I guess if we look at the tax take and how much it's increased and how we're low bloody debt to GDP, well, why don't we just print 200 billion and fix these things? Like, they've got the answer there, allegedly.
Imagine the housing market. We'd actually have to buy, man.
Yeah, send it again.
Yeah, let's roll, baby.
But, you know, if they can just print money and people believe in it, why not do it? Why not fix it? Why not just fix everything? Why don't we just have a year of, hey, guys, we're going to fix everything? Because I tell you what happens with that cash. It goes in and then we go like, shit, who are we going to get to do this? And, mate, like, I've heard a few stories recently where the red money is drying up. And what am I hearing? A bit of bloody, shit, fuck, we got to protect ours. There's articles, there are stories, I'm having phone calls where the money's drying up in one area where the money's going through the system to fix a problem. Problem's not fixed, but money's been allocated to fix it. Greed captures it in the middle. And I'm not talking like mega wealthy people. I'm talking just everyday Kiwis that have seen like, oh, there's money there. Okay, I'm going to do a bit of this. But now the tap's been turned off slightly, or there's questions being asked about, hey, what's happened with that? John's fighting with Dan and all this sort of stuff. Some bad stuff is happening in that space. But that money was designed to fix a problem, but it didn't fix the problem. And so now a new government
It never does.
Yeah, we're going to. So I guess what I'm saying is that we still end up benefiting in some ways from that, but then the problem doesn't get solved because someone there grabbed onto it halfway through and was like, yeah, we can fix that, but they actually didn't or can't. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but there's definitely, when governments talk about whatever colour, wasted spending, of course there's going to be wasted spending. It's just like our own households. We go, we can trust that person to solve this problem.
Or our own businesses.
Yeah. And they don't fix it, but we've let go of the money. So I think we're going to see a tighten to the other way, but they will probably pick things that they want to spend money into. And like equally, people will come
austerity.
in. Oh, I don't even know what that means.
No.
Oh, you mean like just they can not spend less?
Contract. Apparently that's their plan, but then they won't get back in. So watch them turn the taps on like a year out.
So if this, if the solution was let's print 200 billion and just build all the infrastructure, well, we know that's not enough. It sounds like it's $1 trillion now, according to ASB the other day, which is frightening.
Who thought New Zealand would have had a T in front of it somewhere, eh?
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
It's coming.
So it's 600 billion, I think, based on the infrastructure. I should get that right. But again, times that by 1.5. So that's nearly.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're on, man.
Yeah. So someone still has to do that work. So even if we printed it and just did it, imagine what would happen to the state of the country. Because again, it would go through the system and it will end up back in property.
Yeah. Well, it would end up back into everything. And all of our incomes would increase. And then for a while, we'd have extra money to spend, but we'd be like, oh, this is nice. Remember 2020? And we go, wow, these guys building these roads, they're coming in and like buying a new house and doing a reno and spending money at the cafe every day. And everyone starts to benefit from that. And we're all like, oh, our wages have gone up. And then the government comes in and goes, shit, inflation's at 7%. 39%, guess it goodbye. We're adding on 45, baby.
Yeah.
Watch it.
Yeah. The move to 39 was designed to help fund or to help service the debt, I believe was the wording.
Of course it was. Anyway, but in terms of solutions, individually, we've talked about this. Individually.
So, Australia?
Individually, well, I think a part of my job is to try and help people understand it because people don't understand that process. They're like you, and they say, yeah, let's capital gains tax everything.
I'm not saying that's the solution. I'm telling you. I'm just trying to warn you that is what's going to happen.
I know. It's a funny as, but
yeah.
I think what I want to do is try and teach people how that works. So explain it to them because no one knows about this stuff. It's very what do they call me? Fringe. I'm a fringe thinker. Yeah. Which is like a freak, basically.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying that you're fucking got a bit on.
Yeah. So I want to do that. But then the other solutions are in the other 500 podcasts about talking to, just be aware that this is happening. And you might not be able to do anything. Eventually, people will stand up and revolt against it or whatever happens. But basically, individually, look after yourself by doing the right thing, working hard, being a strategic thinker, making sure you can do math and work out what everything's going to cost. Don't be silly with your money and then invest it correctly, right?
Yeah.
And, I find it funny how we're like, let's get Kiwis investing into shares and KiwiSaver and houses and like we've got to invest. And it's like, fuck, we're not going to have an option not to.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, seriously, time's running out on that. Like, learn it. Like, go and listen to all the pods, because like in 10 years, if you're trying to catch up then, whoa, baby.
Yeah, the treadmill's going way too fast.
Yeah. The treadmill is hussing at the moment.
Spitting you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless someone fixes something, and I'm not seeing any evidence of people fixing shit.
Yeah, and like, you're going to want those dividends that you've been looking forward to getting to pay your rates, brother.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I just think the best thing you can do is be aware. The best thing. And I mean, I've lost hope in the ability to vote someone out. Like, I don't think it works, because I think the system of how everything's presented just encourages the wrong behaviour, no matter which side of the political aisle you're on. But maybe you'll see someone slow it down. Maybe this government will slow it down. Maybe the next one will. Who knows? But as soon as you see it slow down, make sure you take advantage. That's your time to try and catch up to it, because fuck, a lot has gone out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what a grim pod this has been. It's outstanding.
It's not. It does sound. I guess it sounds negative to be like that, but the reality of it is all I'm doing is like sharing the fact that
be prepared.
The system in terms of the money system, and then what the council's doing, and then the tax rates are wild for what you're getting for it. And all you can do is make sure that you do you, and be aware, and then be productive so you can protect yourself. And that takes, skill, knowledge, building your base, building a foundation, and then becoming able to operate regardless.
Yeah.
And be a valuable human to other people, so they pay you enough, and you can put up your price when you need to, and you can move to this suburb when you want to, and things like that. That's all it's about. It's not to be too negative. Me calling out the council and the government, 100%. But apart from that, for individuals, I want Kiwis to do mean.
Yeah, because a lot of it just comes back to education and wanting more people to be educated, so that you can then figure out what it is that you need to do. But the danger once you get educated is you realize and learn about a heap of this stuff, and you're like, okay, I can see the treadmill now. I can see the stuff that's speeding it up. I was oblivious to it previously. I just was in the camp of it's hard to get ahead here, and New Zealand's fucked, and the property market's fucked in New Zealand.
The reality is it's just because the currency debasement's compounding.
Yeah. So you've got to learn what levers you can pull yourself. I've just written down a few things here. And if we use the treadmill analogy, you've got to try and find some ways yourself to slow down the treadmill if it feels like it's going too fast for you. And obviously that's why looking after yourself in the longer term, whether it's your health, your wealth, finances and whatnot, and your happiness is so important, because if we're staying here, we're going to see more of this, and it might slow down, but it might, it's still going to happen, because inflation just keeps coming, and we just talked about all the things, and we can go back to the 10 years, what if inflation's here for 10 years and the reasons in there. But just remember too that there's a lot of people that are oblivious to this, and this doesn't make it nice, but it also gives you a chance, like Mikey said before, to not fucking waste it. Because the more people go like, oh, I need to do something about this, maybe they do. And like I've said in a previous pod, then 3 people are knocking on Nelly the Boomer's door, who's got the cash, offering to clean his car. Yeah. Not one, not just you. And you're not competing with as many people as you think. And I mean, I know deep down that, I've done some cool shit in my life and whatnot, but a lot of it's just been because I've been willing to put my head down and outwork some people. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but there's nothing fucking overly special about it.
That's literally all I've got. All I've got is, my only strength is that I did 100 days more a year than you.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't have a talent. I don't have, sometimes I tweet to my younger self, and all they are is don't sleep in today, or basically telling myself to start earlier what I know that worked, do the numbers, reverse engineer it, figure it out, and then roll it back to the very basics. And there's no real talent in that.
So we've got an ability to outwork other people and outsmart them. And we live in a global economy, not just a New Zealand economy. So we can beat the treadmill.
Yeah.
Sure, we might want to just take a pause and take a breather every now and then, and at least know that the government are trying to slow it down. They're just going to have a very tough time doing that. And now the councils are saying that, for instance. So, think about what you can do, and that's where you have to get yourself in the right lane. and be doing something that you're stacking skills, you're becoming more valuable, and that gives you a bit more of a chance to outrun it. I know that not everyone can get into business, but you can slow the treadmill down of taxes by claiming a portion of your expenses. Now, you have to have a nexus, so basically you have to be able to generate revenue, but if you're in business, for instance, you can claim a percentage of your home office costs, including your rates, including your interest, or including your rent, because you use your home as a workplace. Now, I'll give you an example. I have a client who makes $200,000, and that means that for the income between $180K to $200,000, they are paying $3,900 in tax for times 2.
Yeah.
So that is pretty grunty, right?
$7,800.
Yeah, $7,800 of tax on that income between $180,000 and $200,000. Now, their home office claim for them is $10,000. So by the time we added up their interest, their rates, their internet, all those types of things, that's a $10,000 expense that they have in their business. It's completely legal under the tax rules. And that means that their net profit now isn't $200,000, it's $190,000. So they've saved themselves $3,800 of tax. They haven't done anything wrong. But there's a podcast previously called Tax Rules Are Not Set Up for Employees. Go and learn that. You may not be able to use those rules, but again, it is an option for some people. And that's why I think we're seeing a lot of people that want to, contract rather than be an employee because the tax rules are different. So we're in a time where you really do have to understand this stuff, but there's also more ways than ever before to be able to increase your income via the internet. Again, I just think in New Zealand, we're way behind on that, and it just takes us seeing other people doing it online and then building the courage to have a crack at it. But you might be able to pick up some income from overseas things, and that might be, our rates are going from X to Y. That's our gap. What do we need to do to fill that? And there are many ways to increase our income now, but the other thing is that people they might want to leave, and hey, maybe they do, but don't waste it if you intend to come back, because you know that you're going to come back to a very different country, but also the treadmill's still probably going to be going when you get back. Yeah.
Personally, I want to stay,
You wouldn't?
I want to stay.
Oh, you want? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
When are you going? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I like it here.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm like, I'm all for NZ, but I think this podcast has been about understanding the environment that we're in, and that it's not over yet, that there's still costs to come. Someone's going to have to pay the bill. Yeah. And who knows what the solution will be proposed to be, but it probably won't be it won't fix the whole mess.
Yeah, no.
Whatever it is.
I think, it's very important, just if you think about all of the rants and stuff that I just went on, it's very important to understand that when I talk about inflation, I'm not talking about the CPI. I'm talking about the cost of living as an overarching thing. Like, it's got more expensive to go on a holiday overseas, or go, to drive your car every week, to eat food that you want to eat.
Feed your children.
Yeah, to put a new couch in your everything.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by inflation, not just the CPI. Because I don't want people to come back. I was just thinking about that and be like, CPI has only been average 1.8% for the last 25 years, which probably is right. But
yeah. I think
inflation is everything. Inflation is the biggest inflation for the biggest inflation rate for personal people are the people that have had mortgages over the last 3 years, because their inflation rate has been like 30%. We've done some refixes for people where they've gone from where the increase in repayment is $100,000 per year. That means they've got to make like $150 before tax to go and cover that difference.
Yeah.
That's a gigantic inflation rate.
I'm going to go back to my first public accounting job, where I was in the farming sector, and all the time you would hear in the good times, it wasn't like, fuck, what are we going to do with the money? How much more can we borrow? It was, pay some fucking debt down, mate.
Yeah.
Pay some debt down. And I can see why now, because we're in a really tough time.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson, I think, is that because interest rates tax rates haven't been indexed to inflation, yes, we're seeing a high cost of living with just everything, but then we're like, you know what, I'm going to pay some debt off. Shit, there's nothing left in the budget to even do that. You know, you get attacked when you're like, just pay an extra $50 off your mortgage. Oh, fucking, what are you on about? How can you do that? You literally have to go and find a way to do that.
Yeah.
Not so long ago, you could just go, good idea, I will just decrease it. But in the hard times, it's easy to forget we're going to go back to the good times at some stage, but make sure we bank the lessons and take those. And I think that's what the farmers teach each other is, you know, hey, mate, you're a bit newer to this game than us. If you're making some coin, let's clear some debt. Because fuck, it is tough to clear debt when things are tough.
Yeah.
And
That's effectively your ammo.
Yes. Yeah. And it's boring and you're like, we're flying, now we should reward ourselves.
Boring.
No, we're going to clear debt. But you do that so that in the hard times, you're not sitting there going, you're just having all these conversations going, how are we going to solve this? But so do what you can, but also I'm just massive fan of not over leveraging yourself, because then you feel all this stuff a lot more too. It's interesting, mate, you know, because we're now an hour in and we've just got real passionate about this, but a lot of this stuff doesn't impact us too much. Like it does, but it's more comes from a place of care and thinking about other people. We don't want our doctors knowing.
I want to live in a nice place, and that means I want everyone to do better, you know. And and like I said, the path that this stuff's going on is not better. So, but I think it is what it is, man, and we have to deal with it, and we'll fight, and we'll do good, and be good people, and try and be productive humans, and make sure the place is better than when we left it. But it's pretty grim looking.
It just reminds me of my mate when I was on the Gold Coast that I met in the sauna, of all places to meet people. What a spot. He said, it's tough times back home, bro. And it's just stuck with me, because it's like, probably can't really put it any better.
Yeah. One more thing before we go is I got a post that I did a post on Instagram that two actually. I did two, one about my personal situation, but another one about the housing market, because I get asked the question nonstop: is now a good time to buy a house? And everyone should stop asking. Everyone should stop asking that question and ask, do you think it's the bottom of the market, and should I risk everything to get in now? Because that's really what you mean. And I think being thoughtful of everything around us, there is some dark clouds hovering over the economy, but I do think a bottom of the market's coming up, mate.
Wow.
Yeah, for the property lovers.
This is like tease for the next podcast, surely. Surely we can't unpack this right now.
No, we can't. It is a tease. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a podcast. We'll talk about it, about how and when I think the market will continue its trend to all-time highs.
Mate, you're getting really good at this stuff. I can see what you've done. You've just given us 61 minutes of basically why NZ is just feeling tough at the moment. We're going to end up with a capital gains tax. You strongly oppose it. And then you're like, but don't worry, guys. The bottom of the property market's coming in. So just really soften everyone back up.
Yeah, it's coming, baby.
At the end. Oh, outstanding, mate. A really realistic conversation. I've enjoyed that. The best thing is I doubt anyone from the government nor the councils are listening, mate, nor taking you or me seriously. But I mean, I was a good scout growing up, mate, and the number one saying is always be prepared. And I think that's what this is about, is trying to get all of us ready for, if this is what the headlines are saying, this is what the councils are telling us, okay, that feeds into everything, then we got to figure out about how we protect this sort of stuff and how much of that's enough and how much we want to borrow and how much we want to invest and how much we're going to need. And we have to be really real about that, because no one's going to knock on our door and say, hey, you know, have you done your calcs about how much you need for retirement? Do you know about your rates going up next year? Do you know about the interest rates changing? Nah, that shit normally comes with a smack in the face.
Ton of bricks, baby.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Let's get out of here. Why the government and the councils need to be careful with tax. Otherwise, Mikey's going to go on another fiery rampage.
No more negativity. I'll stay positive from here on in.
If you're watching YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about this episode. I've nearly lost my voice. Let's get out of here. See you in the next episode.